because most people are not programmed to dream big. One of the encouragements that I make to people that are high achievers or want to be high achievers is I say, you've got to dream bigger faster. And I warn them, some of your most negative people that do not believe in you, I call them dream stealers, are going to be your friends and family members. They're cleverly disguised as dream stealers. I want you to know that. And very often these people, they're going to try to put the limitations they have on themselves, they're going to put them on you. Welcome to another episode of the DNG podcast, guys. And in this episode, I'm going to get into being realistic. Have you ever been told that you need to be more realistic or that you're being unrealistic? I don't know about you, but I've been told that a lot. And a lot of my viewers are entrepreneurs. They're go-getters, salespeople, people that are looking to do above and beyond things, right? Certainly not people that want to live an average, mediocre lifestyle, right? And so I remember a long time ago, I was told, you got to be more realistic. As a matter of fact, I had school teachers tell me that. I had family members tell me that, hey, you've got to be more realistic. One of the goals that I had when I was 18 years old was to retire my mom before I turned 30. Family members told me, Juan, because my name is Juan Carlos. You guys know me as JC. My family calls me Juan. They said, you have to be more realistic. That's probably not going to happen. And here's the deal. The person that told me that didn't tell me that out of a bad place. He really didn't. He's a very nice guy. He's married to my cousin. He told me because that's generally what he believed. And I think that part of the reason why he told me that was because he didn't want me to be disappointed. Because sometimes when you're young, I was 18 at the time. Sometimes when you're young, you tend to think that you can accomplish more than you really can. Tony Robbins says it like this. Tony Robbins says, hey, listen, people drastically overestimate what they could accomplish in 1 year, but they underestimate what they could accomplish in 10 years. So my goal was to retire my mom by the age of 30. That happened by the age of 28. I'm now 38. So 10 years ago, for the last 10 years, my mom has been retired. That was one of my biggest driving factors, which, by the way, that also ties into something that I wasn't planning on talking about on this episode, but I will because it's important. I think one of the keys, and certainly was a key for me and a lot of people that I've seen, to accomplishing big things is having goals, or we call them whys, that are bigger than you and not about you, but about somebody else. For example, at the same time that I made a goal, I wrote it down. I remember how I wrote it down. I said, retire my mom on or before the age of 30. I'm so happy and grateful now that my mom is retired and I am 30 years old. That's the way that I would write them out back then. And so I remember when that would happen, it looked like a very lofty goal, but it's one of the things that helped me out. One of the things that helped me out is that it was a goal that wasn't for me. Because I also had a goal to have a Corvette. Matter of fact, a red Corvette. Matter of fact, a convertible red Corvette. I ended up getting that convertible red Corvette at the age of 21. But I would have quit in my entrepreneur venture if only the red Corvette was on that list. What made me keep going through tough times was the fact that my mom wasn't retired yet. So I was able to let go of the things that I wanted for myself, in this case, that red Corvette. But what I wasn't willing to let go was retiring my mom. So when I would get rejection and when I would experience failure, that goal of retiring my mom is what drove me. So you need something that makes you drive. And the purpose of this episode is to let you know that if your goals are a bit unrealistic to the average person, which is key, to the average person, then you're probably on the right track. Because guess what? Being unrealistic, what did it bring? It brought the car. In the 1800s, cars didn't exist, so they were invented in the 1800s. Guess what people said when the first car was created? Where the hell are you going to drive that thing? Guess what? There was no roads in the 1800s. People were on a horseback and, buggy, whatever it's called, right? There was no roads. Guess what cars needed? They needed gasoline. Do you think there was gasoline stations everywhere? No, they didn't exist. But see, that is the difference between people with sight and people with vision. A lot of people have 20/20 vision, but 0/0 sight, right? 20/20 sight, but 0/0 vision. Vision is seeing the unseen done. Vision is visualizing something that doesn't yet exist and visualizing that thing already happening. That's the way that goals work. So guess what? Being unrealistic and dissatisfied brought the car. Guess what it also brought? It brought the cell phone. It brought the airplane. You imagine somebody thinking back then, hey man, we're going to wrap people around this big old metal thing and fly it across the world. Traveling across the world back then wasn't a thing. The telephone, forget the cell phone, the telephone. When the telephone was invented, I was actually in Las Vegas and I saw Eddie Griffin, one of my favorite comedians. Eddie Griffin, I saw him live at, I forgot what hotel he was in. And he was going hard. He was smoking and he was drinking and stuff. And, you could tell he was on one. And he was talking about some deep stuff. But anyways, one of the things that he said is, Alexander Graham Bell, I believe that's who invented the telephone, right? I might be mistaken, but I think that's who invented the telephone. He says, Alexander Graham Bell must have been high as hell when he said, hey man, I want to talk to somebody who's not even here. Because back then, imagine, put yourself that the telephone didn't exist. You couldn't talk to anybody that wasn't right there in front of you within talking distance, right? Aside from that, there was letters, but the telephone didn't exist. And guess what? Being unrealistic brought the telephone. It brought the internet. It brought now the electric car. It brought solar panels. It brought all of these things. So guess what? For those of you guys that are being told that you are unrealistic, guess what? You're in good company. And the reason why is this. Because most people are not programmed to dream big. One of the encouragements that I make to people that are high achievers or want to be high achievers is I say, you've got to dream bigger faster. And I warn them, some of your most negative people that do not believe in you, I call them dream stealers, are going to be your friends and family members. They're cleverly disguised as dream stealers. I want you to know that. And very often these people, they're going to try to put the limitations they have on themselves, they're going to put them on you. I'm telling you that right now. So, for example, for all of you entrepreneurs that are out there building something important, building something for yourself, building your own business, shout out to all of you guys and cheers to all of you guys. One of my visions is this. I'm in the solar industry. Being in the solar industry, a lot of people get it, but a lot of people still don't get it, right? I was involved in the cryptocurrency industry back in 2012 is when I started buying my first Bitcoin. That was before PayPal accepted it. That was before Elon Musk was talking about it. That was before the major banks were accepting it. That's what's happening right now. But guess what happens? Most major industries and even people's careers go through 3 stages. Here's the 3 stages. Number 1, ridicule. Okay. Number 2 is oppose, sometimes violently oppose. And then number 3, it serves as self-evident. You in your career, let's say, for example, you got started in the real estate industry. Let's say you became a solar agent, a sales professional, insurance, whatever the case may be, you started your own business, right? You're going to likely get some ridicule. Hey, don't do that. Hey, it's too risky. Hey, that's not very realistic. Hey, it's not very safe. Hey, that's all your life savings and whatnot. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody that goes out there starts a business is doing it right. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that it is normal for these 3 stages. If you look at all of these stages, when the cell phone came out, people had pagers. What did people do? Now, a lot of you guys are probably too young to know this, but the older crowd in their 40s, you guys know what I'm talking about. When cell phones came out, pagers existed, and people had pagers and they had quarters in their pocket. And they said, man, I'm never going to get a cell phone because cell phones are $5 a minute. Guess what? They were then, but they didn't have the vision. The vision of competition, the vision of supply and demand that's going to drive the prices down. So guess what? They said, that'll never work. I'm not going to have a cell phone. Only doctors and drug dealers have cell phones. I've got a pager and I've got quarters in my pocket. That's no vision. But what about the people that created the cell phones? What about the founders of Sprint and AT&T and all of these companies, right? Guess what? They did pretty well. So it first went through ridicule, then it went through oppose, and then now, guess what? Cell phones are self-evident. When the internet came around, billionaires in the world said, that's a fad that's going to be gone. Now you cannot imagine your life without the internet. It went through ridicule, oppose, and self-evident, right? And the biggest winners in the world, right? You look at combat athletes, you look at some of the best boxers and MMA fighters in the world. They went through ridicule, oppose, and self-evident, right? Now when they're here's the way it works. People go from saying, man, you're wasting your time. You're crazy. That'll never work. From that to, man, I always knew you could do it, bro. And I'll leave you guys with this thought. And I got this from a former UFC champion, Forrest Griffin. He said, insanity Excuse me. He says genius is insanity all the way up until it works. Genius is insanity all the way up until it works. Guess what? When somebody said about that car or the cell phone, that seemed like insane. Now they look at those people like they're geniuses. Some of you guys are going through that in your career. Some of you guys are going through that in your business. Keep going. Keep grinding. Don't stop. Setbacks are coming, but guess what? It's a part of the game. See you guys at the top or from the top. Take care.